This next question is from a great name here. Dank Crayon asks,
Dank Crayon.
who is a prospect in the Flyers system currently who you think doesn't get enough attention and has a serious chance to defy expectations?
So I have a good one for this.
All right, let me hear it.
So we are looking, we are currently working on our top 20 list, which will be out next week. Did my interview actually this morning with Assistant General Manager Brent Flair.
Ooh.
We do that for every list. We do the 2-part interview on the forwards, the defensemen, and the goalies that we ranked. One guy who I absolutely think is underrated in the prospect pool. He will be on our list. Spoiler alert. Alex Bump.
I was just looking at him.
Alex Bump. I think Alex Bump legitimately has like quality middle six winger NHL potential. And given the fact they got him in the 5th round and he isn't talked about much, I think he absolutely qualifies as one of those guys who perhaps doesn't get enough attention. I obviously go to and I cover every development camp. At every single development camp Bump has been in, he has popped. Like he does not look like a 5th round pick. He looks like a 2nd round pick.
I do remember you talking about him just this past camp. He looks like a guy who can play
and it's not the first camp he's looked that good. He looks good at all of these camps. He was nearly point per game pace last year at Western Michigan. Keith Jones is alma mater, so he's got that in his corner. He's going to be a Jonesy favorite.
Yeah, just like Wade Allison. It helped him.
Just like Wade Allison.
Well, I'm joking, Charlie. It's just a joke.
But no, I think Alex Bump is a great example of a prospect who doesn't get enough attention and could legitimately be, I'm not saying he's going to be a star, but I think he could be a middle six, like a middle six, 40-ish point a year guy, which is pretty darn good to get out of a 5th round pick.
That's a good one just because we talk all the time like our audience is the hardcore, hyper-focused on these things sort of audience for the most part. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to come up with a guy who doesn't get a ton of looks because we talk about everyone. Like, I don't know, man. Massimo Rizzo is some dude they just found and basically got as a dump from Carolina. It's like, I don't know, he might be something.
Yeah, could be.
But we talk about him all the time.
We do talk about a lot.
He might never play above the AHL, or he might be something. Who knows? But it's not as if we don't talk about him. Yeah. I feel like Alex Bump very much fills that one. Just looking at what they have.
So I feel like a guy that I feel like I hear about when someone is focused on the Flyers prospects, but never just generally in conversation. Ciernik?
Oh, Alex Ciernik,
Yeah.
I mean, he's intriguing. I really like that draft pick. He was a 4th round pick last year. Mm-hmm. He had a rough year last season because he had concussions.
Okay, that's not good.
So he kind of had a lost developmental year because of the concussions. More or less what I believe happened is he got a concussion playing in the Allsvenskan, the 2nd-tier Swedish league. Rushed back because he really wanted to play in World Juniors. And then he had a 2nd concussion in World Juniors, knocked him out for the rest of the tournament. And then he sat out 3 months.
Okay.
In part because it was okay, we're going to really make sure that he's okay this time.
Was it Ciernik or Southern where the consensus was yeah, we'll see. Don't know if he's getting a contract.
That was Southern.
Okay.
That was mostly because it just didn't sound like when we interviewed Nick Schultz at development camp. It didn't sound like Nick Schultz was particularly high.
I couldn't remember who you talked to. Yeah.
Southern is interesting because he is he plays for a really good team in Portland in the WHL. He's got size. He's right-handed. He can skate. I think he ultimately does get a contract, but it was interesting that Nick Schultz was a little dismissive, just kind of needs to show us more. He's only got 1 more year. We have to make a decision. I think that was more of a little public prodding, a little challenge. But I like Southern. He's a solid prospect. He's got some upside. I don't think he's the kind of guy where I look at Alex Bump and I see a guy, maybe he could score a bit in the NHL. Southern, maybe he's a 3rd pair defenseman.
Okay. Just so I have an answer, I'm going to go with a guy who I think a year ago we were like, all right, let's see what he's got. And now has really fallen off in terms of just total expectations from fans, maybe the organization as well. Elliot Desnoyers. 2 years ago, 23 goals, 44 points in 65 games for the Phantoms. Last year, 6 goals, 22 points, 63 games. His point production cut in half.
I blame LaPerriere.
Desnoyers is LaPerriere's guy.
I want him
Lappy
to work so
Desnoyers.
well. Oh, does he?
Yeah. Yeah. They're French-Canadian bros.
whelp.
Well, didn't work out last year.
No.
Hopefully he has a bounce back season.
Yeah,
I think
that'd
the
be nice.
Flyers are still kind of perplexed as to what the hell happened to Denoyer last season.
Yeah.
They still like him a lot as a person and a player, but obviously if he replicates last season again,
Yeah,
he's
it's not
going to
great.
kind of
Gone.
fall off the prospect map.
Yeah.
This is a huge year for him. He needs a
Yeah.
bounce back year.
Whatever happened to Zayd Wisdom, man? Remember that first run?
God, we really,
Ugh.
we really thought he was
a
going to be
bummer.
a
Played in the AHL
Yeah.
during the pandemic here
and
and
it
was
so
real good.
And then it
At
went
like
away.
age 18.
Yeah, I was begging them to call him up.
Yeah.
And then he like hasn't scored a goal since.
Yeah, and he's been in the ECHL.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
what
don't
happened.
think he's even like a prospect.
You never
anymore.
know.
No.
Yeah,
But-
anything can happen.
But it's not looking good for
No,
his
I just
trajectory.
wanted to bring him up because I was in love with him and one of those misses. If we ever go back to those misses shows
Yeah.
that were
Yeah.
also misses.
Bummer.
We all silly like the mayor.